Hi everyone, happy Sunday. So today I'm going to show you how to make this fun Parisian themed scene card using the new Bonjour stamp set by Waffle Flower Crafts. I just love the stamp set. There are lots of possibilities for scenes that you can make with this stamp set, but for today I thought we would make a scene with two young women standing in front of a house with the Eiffel Tower in the distance, somewhat obscured by clouds. I just thought that would be a cute little Parisian scene to work on. So let's get started and we will stamp the different images right onto the cardstock. So I'm going to stamp my little plants first because they are going to appear on front of the house, and I just love this little house stamp. It is fabulous, and you could use it not just as a house, but you could also use it if you wanted to make a little bistro scene. I think it would be great for a cafe, especially if you add some of the other bistro themed stamps that come with this stamp set, like the little bistro chairs, and there's a little cup of coffee and a bottle of wine. Really, really great little items if you wanted to create a bistro scene. But today we're going to focus on just these two young girls standing in front of a home with the Eiffel Tower in the distance. And I just drew in a line there just to mark where the ground is going to be that they're standing on. Then I'm going to stamp the plants all along the bottom, and I'm going to use that stamp more or less as some greenery just for the front of the scene, just to liven it up. Thought we needed something in front of that road. And now I'm working on the clouds, and I'm using my mini cloud edge stencil by MFT Stamps, and I'm using Stormy Sky Distress Oxide ink, and then we're gonna use some Faded Jeans Distress Oxide ink along the top here just to finish off our sky. And the blending brushes I'm using are the new blending brushes by Tailored Expressions, and what's so great about those brushes is that they're color coded so that you can easily keep track of what color ink are on your brushes, and they're all the same size. So I think you get 10 different brushes and they're all the same size. It's really great. So you have one for every color. Okay, so now we're going to draw in our road, and I'm using some T2 here, and then we're going to put some cobblestones over the road, because when I think of Paris, I think of cobblestone roads. So for the cobblestones, we're just going to make some irregular shapes using our E42 as our base. And I'm just going to kind of dot them in a random pattern all over the road, and then I'm going to put some shading on our cobblestones with an E44, and I'm just going to do it in an L shape, like kind of a sideways L shape, I guess, just to give it a little bit of definition and interest. And don't worry, they look a little crazy now, but we're going to go over it and blend it together with an E43. So that's what we're doing now. So I'm just going over the entire surface of each of the little cobblestones with my E43, just to blend the E42 and E44 together. There's lots of different combinations you could use for the cobblestones. The main thing to keep in mind is to have your lightest color as the base, your darkest color as the little L-shaped highlight, and then a mid-tone to blend them both together. So have fun experimenting with the different colors you have to come up with some interesting cobblestone looks. So I just went over the whole street with an E42 just to further blend everything together. Now, there was one little row of my clouds that I left white so that I could go and fill in those shapes with some greenery. So I'm going to use my Y91 through 95 to make the little greenery shapes, and I'm just kind of like dotting color along there, keeping my darkest color towards the bottom and leaving the tops of the bushes lightest. So lots of ways that you can work with those bushes. Just have fun and enjoy the process of coloring. That's the best advice I can give you. Now I'm going to remove the masks from the little images that we stamped earlier, and I'm using Simon Says stamp masking paper here, which is my favorite masking paper for my scenes. I find that it adheres very well, but it doesn't rip the paper, and it can really take a beating, and I am tough on my scenes, as you can tell, where I put a lot of color over the masks, and they always come through for me. So that's why I like the Simon Says stamp masking paper. All right, so for our little greenery in the front, we're going to color them all in with G21, and then we're going to take G24, put it along the edges, and now for our darkest shadow color, I'm using G28. And again, you can experiment here and use whatever your trio of favorite greens are to get the right shaded look for your scene. I'm just filling in some of the areas that were masked and maybe shouldn't have been with a C1, just so that we don't have any stark lines. For the Eiffel Tower, I'm going to color it in with a T2, a T4, and a T6. I almost called the Eiffel Tower a she. Kind of interesting that I guess I just assumed that the Eiffel Tower spirit animal is a woman because she's so beautiful, I guess. So anyway, there's that. And now let's color in our little house. And I thought that it would be so cute to have like a pinkish purplish house for these two girls to stand in front of. So I'm using RV 91, 93, and 95 for the front of our house. And then we're going to use E71, 74, and 77 for the door. And I find that the RV 90s and the E71s match really, really well together. So if you are ever coloring with a color and you need a neutral shade to go along with it, I highly recommend the E70s to go with the RV 90s. They look really nice together. For the inside of the windows, I just use some BG 10, BG 02, and maybe one other BG, I'm not sure, just to make it look like they're windows, and that since this is a daytime scene, I like to make my windows blue or blue-green or lavender. If it were a nighttime scene, I'd use yellowish orange shades. And now we're going to just fill in the little lantern on the side of the house in a second with, well, I guess I'm not getting there yet. So now we're going to do the shingles on the roof, and I just put a little dot of RV 91. Going to go over everything with RV 95, and then we are going to finish it up with our shadow color of RV 99. So what I wanted for the house was I wanted it all to be like in the same shades, but I wanted the roof to be darker and to stand out. So that's why I am using the RV 99 on the roof, but I didn't go that dark on the actual body of the house. And I'm just adding the color in a U shape, and then I'm going to blend everything together with my RV 95. And it's going to look a little bit weird still, but don't worry, we're going to go back later and add some white highlights. That's really going to make our roof pop. And I think the blend is good. Now I'm coloring in that lantern finally with a Y13. And now we're going to work on the little greenery on top of the house, which I just love this little effect of having all the flowers on the roof of the house. I think it gives it such a special, whimsical look to the scene. And I'm just going to use some G20s here for my leaves. And then for the flowers, I am going to use a rainbow of color. So my goal when I make my cards is I try to fit in all the colors of the rainbow, just because I find that it helps to balance cards, especially cards like mine that have so much color in them. So one of the tricks I do is try to use all the colors of the rainbow, but then I also try to make sure I leave one spot on the card that is just pure white, so we have some negative space, even if it's a tiny, tiny bit of negative space. And you'll see later on where I'm going to fit in that white later. But for now, we'll keep working on the flowers. And I'm just making some little red roses with my favorite R combination of R24, 29, and 39. I'm going to put some little blue, green, and yellow flowers on top of the house as well. And just going to add some dark green, some G09, some bright green to the scene just to see how that looks. I end up not liking it, so I kind of, you'll see I go over the G09 later on, but for now let's add some YG03, and I found that adding the YG03 to the bushes really brighten them up. So now I am just adding some shadows around the edges of the bushes with different YGs. And I really like that I added some yellow green to the greens. Just, I find that the yellow greens pop a little bit better than the Copic, just pure greens for whatever reason. So I tend to, if I'm going to use green, I tend to always use a yellow green. But I tried to branch out a little bit in this card using some of my pure greens as well. And if I need to do that, then I tend to gravitate towards the G20s. I find that that's the purest green I can get out of the Copic greens. So now let's move on to coloring the two little girls. So we're going to make them both brunettes, and we're going to add a base of E25 for their hair. And then for their skin, just the typical color combination that I use for Caucasians, E00, E11, and then I think that's pretty much all I do here. I don't think I add a darker tone. So pardon the bell before, that was my oven timer going off. I am cooking some pecan crusted chicken as I record this voiceover. It is Sunday afternoon, and on Sundays I always try to make a nice meal, you know, before the week gets too busy. And today I'm making pecan crusted chicken and some mashed potatoes. So normally I subscribe to Blue Apron, and I'll order in like 3 dinners a week, and how it works is you get all the ingredients for 3 meals, and then you follow the recipe, and then you get a dinner, and the recipes take anywhere between 20 minutes and like 40 minutes. So usually on weeknights, that's what I'll do. And then if there's a recipe that's really long, I will save that for the weekend. So my long recipe or time-intensive recipe this week was the chicken recipe. But when I got my box from Blue Apron this week, the ice inside the box was all melted, and the chicken that they included was kind of warm to the touch. So I was like, okay, I can't use the Blue Apron chicken this week, but I still wanted to make use of the other ingredients that I bought. So I just picked up some pecan crusted chicken breasts from the grocery store, and now I'm baking them. And fortunately all the other recipes I ordered were vegetarian, so I don't have any problems with spoilage for the rest of them. But it's like kind of crazy hot in the Midwest right now, and I guess in the Northeast as well. It was 100 degrees on Friday, and it was the same thing yesterday. And today I think our temperatures in the Midwest are breaking, so I'm excited to go out and just be outside for a little bit once I'm done with this video and with dinner. So anyways, that's my story. So I'd be interested to hear if there's anybody else out there that does these meal subscription services and what you think of them, and if you have any favorites, because I'm always looking for some new ideas to make, you know, dinner fast and efficient, but also interesting. So let's, get back to the coloring. So the white space that I'm leaving in this card is the stripes on the little girl's shirts. I thought that would be a good place to leave the pop of color. So for the black, I'm not using just flat black. I use some C7 and then some 100, just so that if we just use flat black, there would be no dimension to the black, and it would look kind of flat really. So the last touch I think that we're going to do for coloring is just color in the little flower pots, and I'm just using my E30s for that. And I'm just going to add a little bit of texture to the clouds with my C1, and I'm just kind of dotting it around. And this is going to dry back a little bit, but it's going to leave just an interesting look in the clouds so that they look a little bit more interesting and less flat. Now for some white highlights, I thought that the scene was really busy, so I wanted to call some attention to some areas. So I thought it would be fun to add some little pops of white to our plants and also to our house. We're going to add some little white highlights to the shingles on the roof, just to help that shine a little bit, I guess, stand out a little bit against the background. And then I'm just going to add some little pops of white behind or on top of the little bushes in the back of our cobblestone road. And then I'm just adding some shadows with an E44 underneath the house and the bushes and the feet of the little girls, and we're done. So now we just need to put the card together and add a sentiment. I'm going to peel off my painter's tape. I love that crisp white line that I get on the sides of my paper when I tape it down. And then there's only one sentiment in the stamp set, and it says Bonjour. And I thought it fit just so perfectly between the two little girls, so that's where I stamped our sentiment with some black VersaFine ink. So that is the card, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're having a great Sunday, and I hope, like me, you're also having a fabulous Sunday dinner. So love to hear from you in the comments as to what you're up to today, and I will see you soon in the next video.